Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Human Body Systems. So, we last left off talking about homeostasis, and we did this interactive um, simulation where you got to play the part of a hypothalamus. And some of you realized it's not that easy. And unfortunately for this poor child, some of you did not save her, and you have to live with that on your conscience for the rest of your life. Just kidding. Anyway, she would have a hard time with some of these levels, and your homeostasis had to go up and down and work really hard because sometimes increasing one would decrease the other, which is what your hypothalamus deals with on a regular basis. So, fortunately for you, it's a lot better at it than we are. And it's an automatic response that we don't have to think much about. Now, let's talk about organization of our tissues and organs. It should be review. We've talked about this a lot, but at the smallest level, there's atoms. Like this would probably represent an oxygen atom. But when you put a bunch of atoms together, like this oxygen plus these two hydrogens, you get what's called a molecule. This would be the water molecule, H2O. And as you know, there are some much, much larger molecules like adenine, guanine, protein, and those get sometimes linked together, and even bigger molecules like the DNA molecule. But they're still a unit, and that's the smallest unit of things that we can study in our body. And then we have cells, which we spent a lot of time on in the first quarter, how cells are made, what their functions are, what's in the cell. Well, when we then beyond that, a bunch of cells that work together we call a tissue, a bunch of tissues that work together we call an organ, and a bunch of organs that work together, an organ system. So we're going to go into a little more detail on those. You should be on page 2 of your note-taking guide. At the top of the page, it says a group of blank that work together are called a tissue. Those would be a group of similar cells. Similar, meaning they have the same function. It would not make sense to have a blood cell and a skin cell and a brain cell all working together to help or to work some kind of weird new tissue. They all have to have the same job. They all have to have the same specialization. And when they are working together well, they do a good job. The epithelial, there are 4 types of tissues, 4 kinds of tissues, and you should write down what each type is next in your note-taking guide, and not what they are, but what they do. Epithelial are tissue that cover and protect the inside of an organ. Epithelial is the outer layer of tissue, and usually it serves to protect the insides. Then we have connective tissue. Connective tissues join, they support, insulate, nourish, cushion, everything. Joining meaning like they hold things together. Support means they maybe hold them up. Insulate, keep them warm or let them cool off. Nourish, they provide blood or nutrition or water. They help make sure that the organ is supplied with all the stuff it needs. Cushioning, they even do some shock absorbing. Then we have muscle tissue. And of course, muscle tissues they contract and relax to control movement. Some muscle tissue is voluntary, like your bicep is a muscle that you can control. And then some is involuntary, like your stomach. You don't think to yourself, okay, digest this sandwich I just ate. It just happens, and your stomach is moving, and your small intestines are moving and contracting to move the food through. And then we have nervous tissue that send all the electrical signals back and forth to the brain, and that's very important. Without the nervous tissue, it's like having a dead battery. It might have all the parts, it might have all the ability to move, but without that electrical signal saying move, it doesn't do a thing. And we're not talking about this kind of tissue here. Ha ha. So, in the next part of your note-taking system, it says your organs are made of 2 or more tissues that work together. 2 or more tissues. And some organs, like the stomach, actually will have all 4. It's a good example here. The stomach has a layer of epithelial tissue, and that serves as like this outer layer, the protective layer. Then there's the connective tissue underneath that's kind of supporting and linking the parts together. Then we have a layer of muscle tissue. As I said, your stomach has some muscles that will be contracting and squeezing the food as you're trying to digest it and move it along. And then we have a layer of nervous tissue, sending signals back and forth to your brain saying, time to eat or time to stop eating, I'm full. And this is just one example of an organ that has all four. Some organs may only have two types of tissues. Some may have three. This one has all four. But the stomach can't do it all alone, and it has to be a part of a whole organ system. And that definition is a group of organs that work together to form a function in the body. This is your organ system called the digestive system. We have not just the stomach and not just the intestines. We have the liver, we have the esophagus, the pancreas, the large intestine, gallbladder, rectum. They all have a job, but they all have a different specific job, but their one joined function is to digest food, remove the nutrients, and remove the waste. Now, there are 11 major organ systems in your body, and we're going to talk about each of them briefly. We're going to kind of race through this, but all the organ systems work together to make sure that you stay alive and happy. What you're going to write in your note-taking guide is the name of each system, their major role, their major organs. You do not have to list every single organ. Just write the first three that you can see, or the ones that you think are the most important. So, starting with the digestive system on your note-taking guide, it's the first one, the top left. You can kind of see the stomach and intestines, and we just talked about it, so I thought we'd move on with this one. Digestive system, the major role is to ingest, which means to eat, take in, break down the food, and absorb the energy by the body. And some of the major organs are the esophagus, the stomach, liver. We already talked about some of these. And of course, if I'm going too fast, it's because I do have a time limit here. I have to finish this in 15 minutes. But if I do go too fast, please pause it and fill in your note-taking guide as you listen. The next one we're going to talk about is the urinary, or sometimes called the excretory system. And its major role is to eliminate liquid waste, keep the water balance leveled. So major organs: kidneys, ureters, that's the tube that drains from the kidney to the bladder, the urethra, the tube that drains the bladder. So major function is to get rid of liquid waste, maintain water balance. Should be easy to figure that out. Respiratory. Next one, second one down on the left on your note-taking guide. The respiratory's major role is to exchange gases, to breathe in oxygen, give the oxygen to the blood, and remove carbon dioxide by exhaling it out. And some major organs here, obviously the lungs. You could put the trachea, bronchi, those little things inside your lungs, which we're going to talk about later. Next, cardiovascular system, and its major function to transport the nutrients, gases, hormones, waste, everything that needs to be delivered is done so by your blood. And you can put blood vessels, you can put the heart, are some major organs. That's a very important function of the cardiovascular system that you can't live without. Then we have the endocrine system. The endocrine system secretes hormones into your bloodstream, and it helps to regulate all of your body activities. As I said before, in the homeostasis lesson, the hormones are like the emails being sent around by the boss, telling all the employees what to do, where to go, what needs to be done next. The glands that help us do that, there's a gland in the brain called pituitary gland, there's thyroid glands, we have thymus, and then we have our gonads, which are our sex organs producing those hormones that cause puberty. Then we have the nervous system. The nervous system, major role to sense the environment, to communicate with other parts of the body. Your brain is the most important organ in your nervous system. Your eyes are sending signals from the environment, your ears, your nose, but the brain is receiving those signals and interpreting them and then telling the body how to react. You also have a spinal cord and, of course, all those nerves spread throughout your whole body. That's your nervous system. So now this was the first page And I think I did it in the same pattern as it is on your page, but if I didn't, then hopefully you can figure out where to write each one. Next, skeletal system. Skeletal system's major role is to provide mechanical support, and it stores some minerals. It also produces red blood cells in your bone marrow. The major organs would be just bones, cartilage. If you wanted to list some specific bones that you know of, like the skull, the femur, the rib cage, you can list them separately if you want. Then, without the muscular system, the skeletal system would be kind of useless. The muscular system makes us move, gives us posture, balance. It extends our muscles so that we can interact with the environment, can run away from danger, or to walk towards something we want, to reach for something. The muscular system has many, many muscles. You can list some that you know: the deltoids, the biceps, the pectorals, the abdominal muscles. You probably know more than you think. But when we study the muscular system in detail, you're going to learn even more. Then, integumentary system, and that is basically a big, long, fancy word for your skin. And it's not just the skin, it's the hair, the nails, anything on your outer exterior part of your body is part of the integumentary system. The job is to protect us from the environment, injury, infections. It also stores fat. There's a layer of fat just beneath our skin. And one major part of this is to keep the infection out. As long as you have no cuts in your hands, there's the chances of certain bacteria getting in, or not just your hands, in your skin, it's very limited. Most of the time our skin is a great barrier. It's when things get beneath our skin that we can get infections and it will cause problems. Which is why you always wash your hands before you eat, because you don't want to get those bad things into your body. Then we have lymphatic and immune system. The lymphatic system, the immune system, protects us against those infections, just in case they got past the integumentary system. The thymus, again, the lymph nodes, lymphatic vessels, and even your spleen. They're all part of the lymphatic and immune system, creating white blood cells, helping us make antibodies so that we can fight off infections. Then we have the reproductive organs. For male and female, the major function for female reproductive is to produce eggs and support the life of a child, a fetus, an embryo. And then the male producing and delivering sperm and other fluids. So then you can see some of the organs here: ovaries, cervix, prostate, testicle. And we have our 11 major organ systems. Hopefully you wrote a brief summary of each one, their role, and some typical organs found in each one. And we're going to go into more detail with some of these throughout the rest of the year when we study them. And we are going to also be learning about how they all work together and how some of them have overlap. You may have noticed a few of them were listed in 2 different systems, and that is part of the beauty of the body. All right. Your homework after watching this is another Amoeba Sisters video, and it will show you a few more things than it's a little more interactive than others have been, and you get to choose a couple different systems to work together with, and I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you very much.